Hey everyone, it's Laz from Adatis, and today we'll be talking about Power BI Mobile. So we're going to be creating a Power BI Mobile report that looks and feels as good as a Power BI desktop report does. Now, when previously developing Power BI Mobile reports, they felt a little bit detached from our standard Power BI desktop reports. But with some new capabilities being introduced over the year, such as disabling snap to grid, overlapping objects, and more, this has changed. So let's go ahead and check this out. So to create a Power BI mobile report, we need Power BI Desktop, which you can see on my screen now. Now here I have my weekly retail analysis report that needs to be optimized for mobile. So a quick overview. On the top here, we have our core KPIs being displayed. So we have sales, average transaction value, units per transaction, as well as conversion. And all these are basically some KPI visuals that are neatly stacked on top of each other. And we will be using this for the mobile optimized report as well. Apart from that, we also have a background image being used in the desktop layout, which we will transform more for Power BI Mobile. And we are also using bookmarks through these buttons that are being displayed on the canvas here. So right now you can see sales by region. I can go ahead and select ATV. This visual now changes to show the breakdown by region by ATV, and we can also do the same by units per transaction as well. And again, we will be using bookmarks in the Power BI mobile report too. So with that said, let's go ahead and start creating our mobile report. So to do that, we go to the view ribbon, and then we have the mobile layout. And this essentially brings us to the phone emulator. So you can see I had some other visuals here already. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. So we have the phone emulator here. Now, just an important note on this, some improvements that we've had. Since June last year, they've actually improved this by adding more cells to the grid that you see over here. And this allows us to have better placement of objects, essentially. Apart from that, they've also allowed us to remove snap to grid, which was a really cool feature. And again, what this does, it allows us to have pixel perfect placement of Power BI objects, which is great because this is what we always had in Power BI Desktop. So it essentially just brings the mobile development and the standard desktop report development a lot closer together. So with that said, let's go ahead and start dragging on some objects, and I'm going to start off with our title. There we go. And as soon as we drag on the title, notice that it doesn't look entirely right because this has been optimized for desktop. So we need to go ahead and change the font color and the size as well. So to do that, we're going to go back to mobile layout. And once we're in mobile layout, we are not going to change the existing one, right? We still need this for the desktop layout. We're just going to copy and paste, and we're going to change this version. So we said that for mobile, we needed to be a smaller font size. So I'm going to make that 18. And then also the font color, I need to transfer it from white to black as well. Now, another thing I always do, I select selection, and then we should always rename the title of the object. For example, this here is desktop title. The only reason that is called desktop title is because we copied it over from this one here. So I'm going to rename this to mobile title instead. There we go. Now if we go back to mobile layout, as you can imagine, we're simply going to delete the desktop title, and we're going to go ahead and drag in mobile title instead. And there we have it. We're already getting the result that we want. Now I go back to mobile layout. One thing that you'll instantly notice is even though we added weekly retail analysis to the phone emulator, well, it's still being displayed here. We don't want that, right? We only want to have this version for desktop and then this version being displayed for the mobile. Okay, well, maybe we just go ahead and hide it. So I'm going to select this, and then under the selection panel again, under mobile title, you can see that we have a little eye icon here for hide this visual. And perfect, there we go. In desktop, it looks good. Now if we go back to mobile layout, we would expect to see that there, but of course it's not. Now, there's a trick to this. The way we're going to resolve this is we go back to our desktop layout. We must keep the object unhidden. So I'm going to go back to mobile title. I'm going to unhide this. And the way to resolve this is by placing this object behind another object. Okay, so it's still visible, but it's not hidden, but it's just simply behind another object. So that's just layering it. So if I drag this over here behind our sales by map analysis, and then afterwards I go to format, and then I can select send to back. And what that has done, it's pushed it behind the map visual. Okay, so now we go back to view and back to mobile layout. There we have it. We now have our weekly retail analysis title still being displayed as we'd like it here. Now, I know it's not the ideal solution, hiding an object behind another object, but that's how we get what we want. Okay, now let's go ahead and add KPI visuals for sales, sales month to date, and year to date too. Perfect. Now, apart from that, let's also go ahead and add the line and column chart for sales, ATV, and UPT as well. Perfect. Now, but before we even progress and bring sales, ATV by region and UPT by region, already some of the visuals, such as this one here, can be changed a little bit to be more optimized for mobile reports. For example, we can go ahead and maybe reduce down the size of the y-axis and the x-axis, and then also make it a stacked column chart instead. That way it fits into a smaller screen a lot better. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back to mobile layout. And again, remember, we want to have sales, ATV, and UPT in there. And we want the user of mobile to be able to toggle between these using the bookmarks as we have here. So in other words, we need to have all three visuals displayed. So as we did before, we hid our title, our mobile title behind the map visual. We're going to do the similar thing for the stacked column charts, which we need. So we're first going to take sales by region. We're going to add that there. And then what we're going to do, we're going to convert that. So we're going to go ahead and make that into a stacked column chart. And then also under x-axis, I'm going to make that into an 8. And then also I'm going to make this into an 8 as well. There we go. And then let's now click on ATV, because we also need this for mobile. We're going to copy and paste that, and we're going to do the exact same thing here as well, guys. Now, another very important point, when I click on sales, you'll notice that only sales is being displayed here, but over here it's still displaying sales, average transaction value, units per transaction. We also need these new visuals that we derive for our mobile report to be linked to these bookmarks. So to do that, I'm just going to quickly open up the bookmarks panel, and then in there, I'm just going to link them correctly. So you can see I have my sales view here. So if I select sales view, I don't want UPT to be displayed. So I'm going to say hide UPT, hide ATV, and for everything else, display as it is now. So I'm going to update that one. Then for ATV, we're going to go ahead and hide UPT and sales, and then we're going to update that as well. And then also now for UPT, we're going to hide ATV, sales once again, so you can see only UPT is remaining, and then we're going to update this as well. So what we've done there now, if I click on sales, you see that we have sales by region, and we for the desktop layout, and we also have the sales by region for the mobile layout, and the same goes for ATV and UPT as well. So we now have those in place. Let's go ahead and hide them behind our map analysis as so. And you can see that one's above, and again we simply select our map analysis, we go to format, we go to bring to front. And there you have it now, okay? But let's go ahead and go back to our mobile layout. And we can go ahead, and like we did before, we can add them all together. So right now I can add UPT if I'd like. By the way, an important point to keep in mind, following this approach can have an effect on performance if you put too many visuals hidden behind other objects, right? So even though we are hiding these visuals behind other objects, it doesn't mean that they're still not at play. There's still a query being run when this report is opened up. So it's just an important point to keep in mind. Now, I would love to be able to hide objects from the desktop view and have them only visible on mobile report view. This would be the best solution for this. And this is something I hope that will be added by the Power BI team in the future. But for now, keep that in mind. Okay. So if we go back to the mobile layout, you can see that we now have what we want, but still this feels a tad disconnected from our default desktop layout. For example, in the desktop layout, we have that cool background, which has a placeholder for the various visuals. Well, we can also do this, right? So previously, again, this was not possible because we could not overlap objects in the phone emulator, but that is a thing of the past. So let's go ahead and do this together now. So I'm going to first go ahead and remove everything from here. Let's start off clean. And you can do that by clicking the little eraser icon on the top right. Then I'm going to go back to mobile layout. And then what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and bring in a image. So I'm going to go to insert, image. And you can see here, I have an image already created for us, which is optimized for mobile. Now keep in mind, this is a JPEG image, and I simply went ahead and created that in PowerPoint by adding different shapes on top of each other, and almost they act like placeholders for visuals. Okay, so we're going to go to format image, and we're going to make that from scaling from normal to fit, and then exactly as we did before, this will be placed behind one of our existing objects. So we're going to go to format. I'm going to go send to back. There you have it. Now we go back to our mobile layout. We need to now drag on our image that we've added in. Still taking some time to load. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag it all the way down to get the focus that we need. Perfect, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So just by adding this background image here, we can already see how it's starting to come together. It's starting to look like our desktop report as well. So I'm going to now go ahead and add our title back in there. So I'm going to scroll down. Oh, we already are there. So you can see mobile title. If I drag that on, perfect. It fits right, but you can see that now that we have this this background image, we're better off making the font color white again. So I'm going to click back on mobile layout. And then from there, we're going to go ahead, as we did before, hidden behind here. Select that. I'm going to make that a white font. And now we go back to mobile layout. We have exactly what we're looking for in there. Okay, now let's go ahead and add our visuals. So we're going to start off with our sales KPI. So to get that, we have sales week KPI, add that in there. Now, as I mentioned previously, placing objects on the mobile emulator were a bit more challenging before, especially when using background images, because we were simply not allowed to place objects on top of each other. Okay, so that was a major improvement. So now we're going to add our month to date in there as well. And then let's add the year to date. And you can see that I'm using my arrows now just to place it a little bit more precisely where I need. Okay. And let's repeat the same for weekly ATV as well. I am now happy with that. We now also go ahead and add our sales by region. So if I scroll down, we can add sales by region here. So all the way to the bottom. There we have it, sales by region, and we need to use a stacked column chart. And you can see as soon as I've added that in there, by the way, I dragged it in and it disappeared. Now, why did it disappear? Well, that's because right now that is hidden. So in order to unhide that, we must go back to mobile layout and select the sales button instead. So we go in here. So I can select the sales button from here. And if I go back to the mobile layout, you'll notice now there we have it, exactly as we'd need it. So I'm going to drag that down there, and then we're going to do the same thing again, but this time for our ATV as well. So I'm going to drag that in here. There we go. So now I can select ATV view instead. So we can drag that across. And then lastly, we can also go ahead and select UPT view. Add that there. So now when the report user views this through mobile, they can go ahead and select the buttons, sales, ATV, and unit per transaction. And these three visuals will essentially be viewed correctly. So we need to go ahead and add our buttons. So we have a UPT button here. Let's just go ahead and shrink that down a bit. UPT button. We're also going to go ahead and add our sales button. There we go. We're also going to go ahead and add our ATV. Perfect. And then you can see we have two more placeholders here. So this here is to view the sales by transaction date. So this year versus last year. So I'm going to drag that down. And then also down here, we want to be able to view our mapping analysis as well whilst accessing the mobile report. So you can see, simply place it and drag it. Great, okay. So we're nearly at the end of creating our mobile optimized report. Now, one thing just to point out, if I select on the side here, you notice everything has disappeared. And imagine this experience from a user's perspective when they're using mobile. This can get really, really frustrating. So what's happening here, we have selected the background image. So the background image is now in play and is on top of all our visuals, right? And you can see now, if I select anything else, nothing is appearing. This can be resolved by enabling something from the desktop view. So we go back into mobile layout. We have a capability called maintain layer order. So this should be enabled for the background image. So this is our background image. We're going to first make sure that we're going to send it to the back, so it's behind all other objects, right? And then we're going to go, whilst we have it selected, if we go to General, Maintain Layer Order, we're going to make sure that is toggled to on. Okay, and let's close everything else down now because we don't need it. So let's put our sales map analysis up. Now, just a quick note on that. If we go back into view and we go back into mobile layout and you try this out yourself. So for instance, we have all the visuals displayed as we want. I select here and you'll be like, gosh, this is still happening. This will only take effect once we've published it to the Power BI service, okay? So even though that the layout of the background is being displayed on top of all the visuals, this won't be the case when published. So with that said, we have now finished creating our Power BI mobile report. So let's go check it out in the actual app. So you should be able to see my Power BI app on the screen now, and I'm going to go ahead and select weekly retail analysis. What that does, it displays the report in portrait mode as we've optimized it for mobile. And we can see that we have our background image as expected. We have our title aligned correctly. All the KPI visuals are displaying in the correct position. Apart from that, we have our stacked line column chart. So you can see that if I select sales, instantly that changes to sales, ATV, as well as UPT. So the bookmarks are working as expected. Apart from that, if I scroll further down, you can see we have the breakdown by day. And then also if I scroll further down, we have our mapping analysis as well. Also, if we go ahead and go to the top and we select the background image, you'll notice that even though I'm selecting the background image, that it is still maintaining its order. So it's not coming on top of all the other visuals and hiding them. And again, that's due to enabling that maintain layer order feature as we did before. But more importantly, if I rotate the mobile to landscape mode, we can now see the default or the desktop layout. And as we look through this report, we can easily tell that this now is aligned back to our portrait mode, which is our mobile report. So that is how we can go ahead and make our mobile report look and feel as good as our desktop report does. And that's everything for today's video. I hope you found that useful and managed to get some tips on how to optimize your report for Power BI Mobile too. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment or reach out. Take care for now.